the Book and Speech Summit. I know people are coming in. Good to see you, Cookie and Edward and Larry, and we know others are coming. Thank you so much for choosing to spend some time with us. I find people attend meetings like this for a reason. There's something they want to get out of it and that we should be sure to cover. So I thought it would be good if we go around and just really quick, one sentence or so, and we'll start with Larry and then Paul if you choose. Passing is always a fine strategy, but Larry, Paul, and then Cookie and Ed, if you could tell us what you want to get out of today. Just please take it off of mute. And Paul, when you're ready.
Sure. I've been interested in different marketing strategies recently as a consultant. I've wondered about how to approach a book as a strategy, and this caught my attention.
Great. Glad you're here. Larry?
Yeah, I've been a fan of yours for years, Henry. We're starting to launch some big projects. So I want to get reminded the fundamentals, some new tips, and get inspired. So that's why I'm here.
Okay. So it's like when Vince Lombardi, the great football coach, would start spring his practice every year with "This is a football." So we're going to go to fundamentals.
Right. Or John Wooden about how to tie your shoes.
How to tie your shoelaces. Yeah. Good. Thanks. Let's see. Did I say Cookie and then Ed next?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Cookie Chambers. I'm from Fort Worth, Texas. And I find, Henry, that I just continue to have thoughts flooding my head for ideas, for essays or articles, and I just can't seem to get rid of them. So I decided that I might need to focus to say, how would I even get started to capture, organize? You hear songwriters talk about they just hear songs coming, and I always thought that was the craziest thing in the world. Well, now I kind of just have these thoughts coming all the time. So I am beginning to understand, and I just don't know where to get started. So I'm looking
Cookie, you could be a genius or schizophrenic. Too soon to tell.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll go from there. Let's see, Edward and Joe, just like to hear why you came today, what you want to be sure that I cover, so you get out of this what you want.
Yeah, I'll just echo what Cookie said. I've always had this idea of a book or books in my head and struggled with how to get started with it. I've been a writer for 30 years, but in terms of actually making it into some kind of long form product that would be useful and helpful and successful, I just don't know where to start. So,
well, I'll tell you, there's 3 ways to write a book. There's only 3 ways. One is you hire a ghostwriter. That can cost you $20,000 to $40,000. I don't recommend it for a consultant. The other thing is, you go off. Where do you live, Edward?
I'm in New Jersey on the
New Jersey. So, okay, New Jersey, you'd probably go up to the Poconos, get a cabin in the Poconos, and don't come out till the book's done. I call that the misery approach. I learned it from, I named it after the Stephen King novel and movie, but I learned it from a man by the name of Quinn Martin. Quinn Martin was a Hollywood producer and a Quinn Martin production. And when he was mentoring me, he told me how he got his big start when somebody on Friday said, "Oh, we need a television script on Monday." And he said, "Oh, I can do that." This was before word processors. He said he immediately locked himself up in a motel and didn't come out until he had a script Monday morning. And
Wow.
That was the start of him being a famous writer producer. So the third way is a developmental editor. You find somebody who has written books. It's how I started. I found my first book back in 91. And yes, there were computers then, but back in 91, I found somebody who had already written 7 books, and I asked her to be my developmental editor and help me develop the book. And that was my first bestseller, which was Self-Marketing Secrets. So we can talk more about what a developmental editor is and how much they cost and all that if you're interested. But it's somebody who works with you on a weekly basis. You co-create the book. And you come up with a blueprint. You both agree on the blueprint. It has the chapter outline. your stories matter, so you make sure you get your stories into the book. The world doesn't need another textbook from a consultant. The world does need your stories. They're your hidden asset. It's what the prospects will remember from your workshops, from your speeches, from your book, from your articles. And your stories are important. So you get those in there. And in 3 to 4 months, you can have a book that would, when published, would be 150 to 200 pages, which is my lighthouse recommendation to guide you away from the rocks and into the right port. Is that's a good length for your book. About
How many-
20,000 words.
I was just gonna say, how many words is that?
Words is the real way to measure. People always want to ask me though, well, what does it look like when it's printed? Joe, why did you come today?
So this is going to segue very nicely because I just worked for last year with what I thought was a book coach, but now I know is a developmental editor. So, I have just finished 12th chapter first draft, adding an epilogue in the next week to 10 days. I did take a week and go to a cabin in the Catskills. So I used a little bit of the mystery strategy in the middle, which was very helpful. But I'm interested. I came today because I'm looking at options about what do I do next? How do I, what are the different publishing options? How will I use it to help my practice? I'm an executive coach, and I have a second practice, which this book's about, where I help leaders and other people transition from their primary career to a second career into retirement. The people I work with are retiring, but they're not done yet because most
Got
people
it.
don't actually retire.
Encore career.
Exactly.
Hey, Joe, you know the difference between an executive consultant and an executive coach?
$400 an hour.
Well, actually, mine is a coach will ask you 20 questions and give you no answers.
Yes.
A consultant will give you 20 answers, but ask you no questions.
There you go.
So we're somewhere on that spectrum in between. So
I'm on the
yeah,
question
a
side.
book coach is, well, Joe, what do you want to write about? When do you want to finish? Well, they ask you all these questions and then say, yeah, great job. Developmental editor asks questions and also tells you,
Yeah.
okay, this is working, this isn't working, this is what's working in the marketplace right now. This is how other people have gotten from where you are to where you want to go.
Yeah, that's what it was. A great experience. Very, very essential in terms of the guidance and the accountability. So it was very, very helpful in getting to this point. And I'm also in New Jersey as well.
So I demonstrate everything I teach. This is an author giving a Zoominar, starting with what's called a soft opening. So a soft opening is I let people talk and I find out what they want. And then I can tailor what I cover in the next 50 minutes based on the things that you said. I did 2 what's called pattern interrupts. I didn't just keep going, yeah, okay, now Joe tell me, now Larry tell me. Now I stopped, I did a little something and then recalibrated and went in. And then I can start with an official opening. A lot of times I'll start with a story and it goes something like this. I wish you could have been there the day Bill Woodich called me. Now, I didn't know who Bill Woodich was. He's a big deal, but I didn't know that. And he called me one day and said, hey, Henry, you don't know who I am, and that's okay. But I know the 4 magic words in the English language. And I said, Bill, I'm curious. What are the 4 magic words in the English language? And he said, I know a guy. I've been calling around for what I want, and people have been saying, I know a guy, Henry DeVries. I said, oh, well, Bill, that's a lot of pressure. What is this thing that you want that I'm the guy? He says, I want to be a best-selling author and a professional speaker. I said, oh, that's a mountain you want to climb. You want to climb a mountain there, Bill. He convinced me to drive up from San Diego to Orange County to meet with him. He convinced me by paying me $1,000, so that was convincing. I went up and I laid the outline of how it would all work, what he would need to do these things. And it was interesting. Bill Woodich was at a crossroads. He was 58 years old. He owned a big construction insurance company in Orange County, California. He was a multimillionaire. And his people said he was the most inspirational boss they'd ever had. One said, he took us when we didn't know anything and taught us how to make six figures. And here's the kicker on Bill. If we didn't have the right clothes to wear, he bought us the right clothes to wear when we started. Bill said, no, it's been great forming this company, but I have to confide to you, Henry, I never met her. I said, I beg your pardon, Bill? He goes, I never met her. I'm 58. I've looked for her for decades. I never found her. I never found the right woman. And when I became more and more successful, it became harder to find her. He says, now, I've enjoyed being motivating to these 100 people, but what I want to do is be on stage, and I want to be a best-selling author who motivates 10,000 people at a time. I said, oh my gosh, Bill, you don't want to climb a mountain. You want to climb Mount Everest. But there was something in his passion, what Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich would call his burning desire. And I said, okay, if you want to climb Mount Everest, I'm your Sherpa, let's go. Let me tell you, it was not easy. Bill was a blogger, and he had written 90,000 words. And I think I broke his heart when I said, Bill, not these words, at least not 70,000 of them. Let's get it under 30,000. And then I got him on stage speaking. We don't wait till the book's finished. We start speaking to attract clients right away. I got him booked in front of a C-level audience at Qualcomm. I don't know if you know Qualcomm, it's a Fortune 500 company in San Diego, tech company. So big room, 100 C-level executives. Bill spoke. One of them came up to me afterwards and said, Henry, I got to tell you, this Bill Woodich, he is dynamic. He is passionate. I have no idea what Bill Woodich is talking about. So I called Bill up. I said, let's go to dinner. I know what your book's about, and you don't know what your book is about yet. So we went to dinner, and I said, Bill, you have a motto, always forward. It's about not letting fear get in your way. That Devin, did you go into a tap dance there?
Did I?
Yeah, when I disappeared.
Oh,
All of a sudden I was talking to an empty room. So anybody help me? Where did I cut out on the Bill Woodich story?
You were sitting down for dinner and going to tell him about, you said what one of the executives had showed
Thank you. Yeah. So the executive said, I have no idea what you're talking about. We sat down to dinner. I said, Bill, you have a motto, always forward. It means you never let fear get in your way. Well, fear never sleeps. People are afraid of fear. Fear stops them. That's what your book's about. That's what you taught your 100 people to do, to always move past their fear. So we finished the book. We did a campaign to make the ebook on Kindle a bestseller. So he's an Amazon Kindle bestseller. We started getting him booked for publicity where they would interview him, and we kept refining the message. Then we took him on radio shows around the country, and we kept refining the message. I had him mail books out, people who were important for either publicity or get him booked as a speaker. Then we got him on local TV shows like Good Morning Baltimore when he traveled to Baltimore, or AM Chicago when he's in Chicago. Then our big break came. Bill Woodich was invited to go on the Steve Harvey show, not part of a panel or just a little guest 5-minute slot. 45 minutes of the show was about always forward, Bill working with Steve Harvey's audience members on how to get past their fears. Steve Harvey liked him so much, he booked him as a regular guest, made 3 appearances on the show. Let me tell you, 10,000 people did not hear Bill Woodich that day. 2 million people heard Bill Woodich that day. He parlayed it into another book deal. He took those words we didn't use the first time and did a bestseller with McGraw-Hill, one of the big New York publishers. He got a Sirius radio show. He speaks for $15,000 a speech now. And he still runs the construction company. So I called Bill up. It was 2 years later. He did all that in 2 years. I said, Bill, I want to go to dinner with you. So no, I didn't say McDonald's this time, or I didn't say, Denny's, let's tell him it's your birthday. I'm cheap, but not that cheap. I took him to the same steakhouse in Laguna Beach that he took me. And I said, Bill, I just wanted to say, you proved it to me. You proved you were willing to climb the mountain. You were willing to climb Mount Everest. And he got all choked up. As some would say, verklempt. And he said, those were the words I wanted to hear most of all. Now, Bill gave permission to tell that story. I tell it for a number of reasons. If you heard it before, I hope I told it better this time, though I was rudely interrupted by the internet going out. Bill said, you can tell that story with two caveats. The first time you wanted to take me out to dinner at the steakhouse, tell him I picked up the check. I said, okay. I said, what was the second thing? And he said, you need to tell him that it's $15,000 now a speech. I said, I'll include that too. So that's the power of all this. There's a lot of elements of what you need to do in that story. You need to write a book. There are ways to get the book out there and become a bestseller on ebooks without going to the dark arts. There's some just basic strategies you can do to get enough people where you can say that your book in a certain category is a bestseller. But that and $5 get you coffee at Starbucks. Saying you're a bestseller, and I'm a bestseller, but it's a different kind of bestseller. I'm an Amazon.com #1 bestseller in 4 categories, and not for a day or a week or a night. Over 100 days on the business bestseller list. That was my book, How to Close a Deal Like Warren Buffett, now in Chinese. So I have an international bestseller, but it wasn't me getting discovered because I have this international bestseller. It opens some doors, and that's what your book will do for you too. It'll open doors. I've done a 10-year, $3 million study on how consultants and coaches and professionals attract high-paying clients. A high-paying client is defined as over $10,000. They're paying you 5 figures or more, a client. So it's a different type of process than somebody hiring somebody for a $300 service. Quite different mindset goes into this. And that's what I studied. And I was affiliated with the University of California, San Diego. I was the assistant dean for continuing education and adjunct marketing. Did my study, had many clients sign on, even tied in with the Harvard Business School for these findings. So I'm going to give you the top 7 ways a consultant, coach, professional uses a book and speaking to attract high-paying clients. And I'm going to go in rank order, but from 7 to 1. So I've rank ordered them. There were 100 things on the study, but let me give you the top 7. I call them the Magnificent 7. Number 7, put on paid workshops, including proprietary information on how prospects compare to their peers, because you've done research that they can't do, and you can tell them how they compare to their peers. They will pay money and give time to find out that information. I didn't invent this. Nothing on my list I invented. It's all R&D, rob and duplicate. I've robbed and duplicated these ideas from the most successful consultants. In fact, my new book that I'm working on that'll come out this year is called Rainmaker Confidential. So I've gone back in during 2020 and I interviewed top consultants and professionals on what's really working now. Let me look under the hood. Let's share it with other people. But number 7, the workshop. Number 6 is your internet game plan. And it has two elements, YouTube and LinkedIn. YouTube and LinkedIn. We're going to talk about that a little later. Let's go to 5. Number 5 is networking at target-rich environments. A target-rich environment is your prospects, and you know who your prospects are, they gather together someplace. Now, I know it's like, oh, but Henry, there was a pandemic. They don't gather. They still gather, but they're gathering online. They're doing it virtually, like C-level executives at the Executive Next Practices Forum. The last time we were live in Orange County with that group was February. Then March hit, and they increased the number of events they did, but they just took them all online. Number 4, do pro bono volunteer work for target-rich environment associations. For me, it's the Institute of Management Consultants. I've put on their national conference 3 times, and I was the consigliere on the committee this year, helping them put on the conference. And it was, actually, I advised them, we need to take this virtual. We were able to get speakers like Malcolm Gladwell because of that. We were able to increase the attendance from years past. We got more sponsors, and it was all done virtual. So that still works. But let me give you the 3 secret weapons. Number 3, get published. Get published. You want to be a thought leader. Now, these are trying times. They're emotional times. There's something we all need, more clients. And there's something that we need to practice, and that is telling stories, our defining stories. Our stories that we have helped people go from mess to success. In writing, you need to tell these problem to solution stories. In presentations, you need to be able to tell 1 in 2 minutes that proves you're an expert, that you're not a wannabe, that you're somebody who can take them from here to there. Now, publishing is a spectrum. I mentioned bestseller over here, the New York Times bestseller. I'm just one step over, Amazon.com, #1 bestseller. By the way, who sells more books, Amazon or the people on the New York Times list? I could have been New York Times bestseller. I spent $20,000. I invested $20,000 to be an Amazon.com #1 bestseller. My investment would have been $100,000 for New York Times, and I judged that cost benefit not worth it. Okay, but at the other end of the spectrum here is putting articles on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is where people go to check you out. And you need an up-to-date profile. You need to have current material on there. You need to have a lot of things. And then LinkedIn can be your secret weapon. But we'll get to that at #1. Number 2, get invited to speak at target-rich environment meetings. Where do your people gather? How can you get on the program? This is all a process, but let me tell you, it is so much easier for an author to get booked than someone who is not an author. It's like, it's so unfair, it's sick. So here's what I mean. You contact the event coordinator, you contact the person in charge of the speakers, and you say, hi, I'm going to pick on you, Julie. Hi, my name's Julie, and I don't have enough clients right now. I was hoping to speak on your hello, they're hanging up on you. Hi, I'm Allie. I've just written a new book that I think has a powerful message for your audience, and I'm speaking more to communicate this message. If you'd be interested in a conversation about that, that would be great. Well, that opens doors. People, author, we were told as 4th graders, and I don't know who your 4th grade teacher was, Sister Mary Elizabeth or Mr. Sinclair or Mrs. Bandy, whoever it was, they taught you that books are important and authors are important. After helping over 300 authors, I can say, well, not so much, but let's just keep that amongst ourselves. We're just ordinary consultants who did some extraordinary work. 15% of us are willing to write a book and get a book published. And we're better for it because a teacher learns more than the students. We learn more about our work by analyzing it and coordinating the explanation of it to other people. So, speeches. Now, number one, save the number one for last. Somebody controls whether you get to give a speech. You control whether you put on a small scale seminar like this Zoominar. A year ago, last January, I decided to get off the road more. And I said, I'm going to start doing my seminars that I do around the country. I'll do them on Zoom. Careful what you wish for. In March, I got my wish that I haven't traveled around the country since February. But I've been doing 2 of these Zoominars a month. It's a small scale seminar. Frankly, I just want a handful of people, 5 to 10. I want to have some conversation with them. I want to be able to ask them a question. I want to be able to talk to them by name. Now, how do you fill a room like this at no cost? That's what most people are afraid of. The fear is, I said, fear never sleeps. Here's the fear. What if I put on one of these events and no one comes? Oh, that works for you, Henry, but will it work for me? Well, I'd like to turn the talking stick over to Devin DeVries from Indie Books International. And Devin's going to tell you how small scale seminars can work for you and how you can use LinkedIn to fill these. So Devin, take it away.
Thank you, Henry. So small scale seminars, we've seen these be a game changer, both for growing our business and also helping our clients grow theirs. And the real secret weapon that we've developed is LinkedIn, and using LinkedIn as an outreach marketing strategy. Now, a lot of people have a LinkedIn profile, they set it up, but then they're not really sure where to go with it after that. But what I love about LinkedIn is that all that information that we all put in our profiles is searchable. And that's what makes it such an essential tool. Because if you can really define, who is your target audience, who are the people you want to reach, you can then use LinkedIn to find them and start connecting and really build relationships. And by doing these small scale seminars, it's a chance to reach out to people. It's a generous offer of free information. So it's a way to connect and offer something first as part of the relationship. So you're not asking for them, you're giving first. So that's kind of the why behind it. So I'll tell you a quick story to kind of illustrate how powerful this tool can be and how it works. When we were just starting Indie Books back in 2014, Henry knew that as a new player in the publishing world, we needed to start making some strategic partnerships and get some referral sources and be a referral source for others. And he had done some research and found that the #1 public relations company for promoting books and authors was a firm out of Tampa, Florida called News and Experts. And he got a call with their CEO, Marcia, and they had a nice initial chat, which ended as those often do with, this sounds great. A partnership sounds great. Next time you're in Florida, why don't you come by the office and we'll talk more. Henry hangs up the phone, comes out to me in my office and says, "When's the next open date on our calendar?" I said, "Well, about 3 weeks from now, the beginning of September." And he said, "Great, we're going to Florida." Okay. And he calls Marcia back up and says, "Oh, it just so happens I'm going to be in Orlando the first weekend of September. Can we meet?" And he set up a time and she said, "Well, but what's bringing you to Florida?" And he said, "Well, I'm putting on my Marketing with a Book and Speech Summit." And Marcia said, "Well, that sounds very interesting. I'd like to come to that as well." So here we are. We have 3 weeks to fill a room so we don't look like posers in front of the CEO we're trying to impress. But here's the problem. We're a Southern California-based company. We knew nobody in that area of the country at that time. Our constant contact database had 0 people in that state. So what were we going to do? And that's when we turned to LinkedIn and developed this strategy. So I'll give you a quick kind of overview of how it works, but if you want to see kind of detailed sample messages and that kind of thing, I have a white paper I'm happy to send you after. But here's how it starts. It's a very simple kind of two-step invitation process. So like I said, it starts with knowing the who your audience is. And by using the LinkedIn filters, you can focus on location, job title, industry, organizations. So for us, we know Vistage, Institute of Management Consultants, those are all target rich environments for us. We can filter by that. And then when you go to connect with somebody on LinkedIn, there's the option to add a note. And then all you do in there is just add a couple sentences. So one kind of introductory sentence, some connection point. So maybe you have something in common. So it does take a few minutes to look through their profile, but that personal touch is going to come through when you do that. So maybe they posted something that you found interesting, a little comment on that, or, you know, you went to the same school, something, just a connection point that you can say. And then just add one sentence, which is, would you be open to an invitation to be my guest at an event I'm hosting for, in our case, for consultants? And that's it. So it's a very kind of soft knock approach. It's not pushy. If they accept the connection, then you follow it up with a simple invitation to your no-cost workshop. For us, we send them a link to our website if they want more details. So it's straight to the point. It's not salesy or spammy. Again, like we said, it's a generous offer of information. So back to Florida, I'll tell you a quick personal note about myself. I love that I basically can work anywhere in the world that has Wi-Fi, but if I could choose one place to have my office, it would be on Main Street of Disneyland. I am a Disney nut. Henry knows this about me, and he also believes in setting goals with incentives. So he said, if you can get 12 people to sign up for this event in 3 weeks' time, I'll buy you a ticket to Disney World while we're in Florida. So to me, that was like challenge accepted. And I applied this strategy to as many people in our target market within about a 2-hour drive of Orlando, Florida. And in the end, I was able to get 15 people to sign up in 3 weeks' time. Marsha came, we had a great initial meeting with her, became partners. We still work with Marsha to this day. She's done amazing things for our clients. You know, the story that Henry started with Bill, she helped Bill get on local TV at first and then national TV eventually. And then also she became a referral for us. And one of our largest contracts to date was actually a referral from Marsha. But that's not even the best part of the story. We wrote business that covered the expense of that entire trip before we even left California as a direct result of the LinkedIn messages. So what will happen when you send these out is somebody received it. They said, oh, I can't make that date. But he was looking for a ghostwriter, had a call with Henry and hired him. And then the other one, which was an interesting side effect as well, is when they read your profile, they're going to notice things about you. So this person read Henry's profile, saw that he was a Vistage speaker, and said, you know, I've been trying to get into the Vistage speaking world. Can you help me with that? And bought a couple coaching sessions, which again is not even our main business, but it's a nice benefit. And like I said, that was all before we even did the event. Every event we do leads to clients. Now, it may not be exactly the person in the room, but it goes back to that I know a guy. So the more people we can help and give information to, the more they will tell others and pass it on. So that's kind of the power of the strategy. And as Henry mentioned, we used to do this all across the country. So it works anywhere you do it. And then in the last year, we have proven it works virtually as well. So the strategy holds true. If you know who you want and what your topic is, you can use LinkedIn to find them. And with that, I will turn it back over to Henry.
Thank you, Devin. Thank you so much. So everybody know, thanks for your patience on the video today. We're in California and we're in full lockdown at the home. We have an office with different rooms and studios set up and all that. I'm off the kitchen in my home office right now, and Devin found a nice background somewhere in the home for that. Devin is my daughter. We wooed her out of the corporate world 6 years ago when we formed Indie Books. So I love her story because I'm the nemesis character. I'm the boss who creates problems for the employee in that. But Devin really won out in that one. So good job on that. Now, we've talked about getting a book created. We talked about promoting a book. What about getting the book published? What are the options right now? And I had a question. They said, right now with self-publishing, has this diminished authors? Well, it's true. Last time I checked, there are 32 million books for sale on Amazon. But our experience is if you do the book right, it establishes you as a thought leader and as an expert, and that gets you more speaking opportunities, which attracts more clients. We're looking for that. As somebody who has booked speakers for years for conferences, I'm always looking for that also. And the problem with self-publishing is we call it the S word. It's like a dirty word. Anybody can do it, and there's a lot of crappy self-published books out there. Do not do that. Or people say, well, what I'm going to do is save money. I can just do this myself and get it out there. I heard you just kind of upload it and do this and do that, and it looks like it. Or I'm just going to do an ebook. Won't that be great? No, it's not great. You can publish with a traditional publisher, like I've done with McGraw-Hill or Simon & Schuster and Wiley and all these people. It takes a lot longer. They want to be sure you can have a plan that will sell 10,000 books a year, and they will give you 15% of what the book makes, and they'll keep 85. Not a great model. Indie publishing. That's why we formed an indie publishing company. I was helping people with their books, and then they were frustrated. So my formal introduction is, hi, I'm Henry DeVries. I run a company called Indie Books International. I work with consultants who want to attract high-paying clients by marketing with a book and a speech. So in fact, in the last decade, I have helped 300 people as a ghostwriter, developmental editor, co-author, to get books out there that attract high-paying clients. I have over a dozen books with my name on them that help position me as an expert in business development. In fact, I'm paid to write a weekly column for Forbes.com on business development. And here's an offer. If anybody wants to pitch me on an idea for a column for Forbes.com, just my email is in the chat box. Just email me that, and I'll send you an invitation and an instruction on how to have a Forbes column. So I said, like, there's 3 ways to write. There's 3 ways to publish: traditional, and then self, where you're like your own contractor building your house. The hybrid or indie model is like indie films or indie records. You have a general contractor, the indie publisher. They hire the subcontractors like the artists and the researchers and the copy editors and the production people to get your book out there. And the split is more like 85% for you, 15% for them. But the real money in our study is not from the book. You don't make money on the book. Your hope is to break even. The book sales, you sell 1,000 and that'll recover your costs for publishing the book. The real income stream is what happens as a result of the book. either speaking in the $5,000 to $10,000 range, training in that range, or consulting for 5 figures. And that's what an expert with a book can do. I also said something in this climate that we're in with the election and the pandemic and anti-expert sentiment. Well, that might be on social media, but it is not with associations and people who hire experts. I don't want the person who, there was this one person I remember, he used to brag that I never went to college. I've never written a book. I just been in the school of hard knocks. Well, okay, that's his positioning. I find thought leaders are people who write and publish, type and talk. They share their expertise and they're generous in it. Devin talked about the white paper. I'm generous in having people considered for a Forbes column. I'm generous in sharing my books, like Marketing with a Book and Persuade Like a Story. I'll tell you another generous thing. Either Devin or I are more than happy to have a no-cost strategy call with you. It's a no selling zone. We're going to cover 4 things. 1, what are your goals? 2, what are your assets? We find people have hidden assets, not money. I'm talking about intellectual property assets. Maybe they blogged, have articles, have a curriculum for a workshop. The third thing is roadblocks. And what are your roadblocks to get this book written, produced, and out there in the marketplace, attracting clients? And then finally, we help people get clarity around, based on what they tell us for those first 3 questions, how others have gotten from where they are to where they want to go. So we can share that. That's a non-selling zone. Now, if you want to ask us questions about other things, then we're happy to share. Another thing I think is a generous offer is once a month, I do a master book class. It's 3 hours. I take only 10 authors. And in 3 hours, we put together a blueprint. So you get a developmental editor for 3 hours for 365. And then I'll give you a one-on-one meeting after that to give you specific feedback on your book and where you're going, what you're writing. Those offers are out there. If you're interested, just go to our website or look at, or send me an email and I'll send you information. Now, I said I'm going to demonstrate everything I want you to do. I want you to do the same thing. I want you to include that in your presentations. I want you to offer a no-cost strategy call. And no matter what you do, you can use that same agenda. What are their goals? What are their assets? What are their roadblocks? And then you need to be that master persuasive storyteller to tell stories from your repertoire of how you got people from mess to success. That's how you give them clarity on how others have done it. So I've had people stop me that they can't believe I'm doing this or that I do this and don't charge. Well, there's a catch. I only do 12 a month, and then you have to go to another month. You have to decide how many of these you're going to do. I have found the more generous I am in giving away books and information and these calls, the luckier I get in business. And as Devin says, it might not be direct from that person, but when they're asked about it, they go, I know a guy. I asked our female authors, I said, what can I say that's the equivalent of that? They said, oh, just say I know a guy. It works for men and women. It's like actor. You know, let's just have some terms that are non-gender based here. But it means I know somebody who I can hook you up with, who can find the way for you. Be that person. Be that generous referral source for people. It makes a difference. I was wondering if anybody had a question. Feel free to put it in the chat box and we can deal with it. If someone, I can look through, I'll scroll here. If there's some question you have today that I haven't answered, be happy to cover it. Just, you can even take yourself off mute and just ask that question away.
Hey, Henry, it's Heidi.
Howdy, Heidi.
Howdy. Here in Oklahoma. If we were to engage with you, typically what is the timeline from if we've done our research and we just need to get our butts in gear to actually write the book to, just the timeline of the process?
Thanks, Heidi. Great question. What's the timeline of the process? First, I just have to confirm, you're in Oklahoma? So my father's mother, my grandmother, was from Oklahoma. They were boomers, not Sooners. So they're from Oklahoma. And I took my dad to a Texas restaurant, Clay's Texas Barbecue, and I introduced him to the owner, Clay from Texas. And I told him, my father's, kin, they're from Oklahoma. And he said, Oklahoma? Last time I was in Texas, we were having a vote. Should we screen in Oklahoma or just leave it as a back porch? So there you go. Okay, now timing. I find it's easier to write a book in 90 days than to write it in 6 months because of momentum. And I just helped the president of one of the top 10 biopharma companies in the country write a book in that amount of time. And what I had him do is a chapter a week. And I said, I just need an hour. I had him outline. I said, spend 45 minutes outlining your chapter and 15 minutes talking it into your smartphone. And then I'll transcribe it and we'll have the first rough draft for your chapter. And we actually did 16 chapters that way and then refined them. So now he has 16 essays about what's happening. His premise is we can end disease in this century. Okay, 90 days, maybe 120 with some rewrites. Some people, I say, carve out a half a day a week. If you want to do it in front of that computer and plunking it down, you can. I find speaking the book is faster, but if you want to do it the old-fashioned way, leave yourself half a day, and part of that is time to talk to the developmental editor, get feedback on what's working, what's not working, how you might have a hook lead that gets people more interested, or how an application box at the end of the chapter, just little techniques. Okay, publish, again, 90 to 120 days, depending on how fast you want to go. And that is for a traditional book that would be sold at Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. And it's for order in the bookstores. It's a book. It's a real book. So your real book can be published in that time. And then it also has an ebook. If you want to have an Audible version or a hardback cover, add another month for that. So we're talking 6 to 8 months from let me start. But what you don't want to do is the seat of the pants approach, Heidi. Let me sit down and let me be inspired to write this book. Start with a blueprint. As Abraham Lincoln said, if I had 8 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend 6 hours sharpening the axe. So I don't think it's that, but I think if I have 12 weeks to write a book, I spend 2 weeks in planning it all out. And then you write it. And the title is a working title. The subtitle is working because you might change it when you get toward the end. The first book I was a ghostwriter on, the tentative title was Forget Everything You Know About Hiring. These were 3 experts on recruiting C-level executives. And they had found in their research that 56% of executives, and they were spending $30,000 or more to recruit these people, 56% failed to meet expectations in the first 18 months. So they dug a little deeper into why, and the why was most organizations do not set expectations for success before they hire. They set them after. So sometimes they're hiring great people, but for the wrong expectations. Okay, but as we're doing that book, we were finishing up one of the last chapters. We did an interview with a CEO. He said, "Oh, I know exactly what you mean by this book." It's like they get here and you say, "You're not the person I hired." and bing, the light bulbs went off, and we named the book, You're Not the Person I Hired. And there are more than 10,000 copies in print. And unsolicited, these authors sent me a note, 10 years later that said, we averaged an extra $250,000 a year because of this book and the speaking about the book. So that's what we can all do. You asked me time. I told you how to make a watch. There's a consultant joke too. Actually, the consultant borrowed your watch to tell you about it. So there's the short answer, 6 to 8 months to write and publish. Any other questions?
Yes, this is Julie.
The chair recognizes Julie.
Also from New Jersey. You have a preponderance here.
The Garden State.
There we go.
Everything's legal in New Jersey.
There you go. We're just growing it here.
Yeah.
So one of the things that is of interest is the topic. Picking a topic that is, shall we say, ripe for the kind of speaking fees and consulting engagements. Is that something, there's a science to that or not?
Thank you, Julie. So Julie's topic is, picking the topic of the book, art and science. In the second chapter of my book, Marketing with a Book, if you buy a copy, I'm happy to autograph it. If you buy 2 copies, I'll come to your house and read it to you. But seriously, if you just ask me in an email, I'll send you a copy and you can read chapter 2, the book Blueprint chapter. And I have a process that takes people through to pick the right topic for them. And it needs to be in alignment with your business model and what service you want to offer as a problem solver. So there are problems people want solved. And sometimes I have to be a translator. I have to help people as developmental editor. I said, okay, how you're describing it makes sense to you, but that is not what the book buyer, the person who hires you, buys. You say time management, they're looking for productivity. That might be a simple thing. So your book needs to be about productivity and you need to be a productivity expert. So sometimes it's a translation, Julie.
Right.
And that book, just send me an email. It's in the chat box, and just say book, and I'll know to send you Marketing with a Book.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Well, that's all the time we have for today. The Game Changer, let me tell you, is offering people those no-cost strategy calls. And I really encourage you to take me up on that offer. And again, I promise it's a non-selling zone. Just as today I promised would be a non-selling zone. You were waiting for this thing where I was going to say, oh, and today only, we have a special on 8 CDs or DVDs of the coaching program. And, there's 2 doors that lead out, and one is for winners and one's for losers. No, I don't do that. I don't want you doing that either. I find your prospects are smart enough to figure out if working with you is in their own best interest. All you need to do is provide them written materials and speeches. We put things on YouTube so people can see interactions like this. It just helps them understand that you understand their problem. You're willing to help them solve their problem in general. And if you wanted, they'll have a conversation with you on how much it costs to solve your problem in specifics. So with that, I want to thank everybody for attending today. We really enjoy it. I do 2 of these a month on different topics. You're always welcome to come and interact with us. And we're all going to get through this together. Thanks. We're not toilet paper or Zoom, but we're doing okay. We grew 22% last year by helping more people. So may you help more people and do better in 2021. Thanks for attending. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you, Henry and Devin.